What if leaving the classroom didn't mean leaving behind the parts of teaching you love? In today's episode, Megan Johnson sits down with former elementary teacher Jamie Bulva, who found a career that still allows her to work with children, support educators, and make a meaningful difference without carrying the same stress she experienced in the classroom. Jamie shares how she became the first person hired from outside the organization for her leadership role, how she positioned her teaching experience to stand out, and what she now looks for when reviewing resumes and interviewing candidates. You'll also hear the incredible story of how she completed her interview just one day after having her son, and why speaking up during the hiring process helped her secure the salary she needed. If you've ever wondered whether your teaching experience can truly qualify you for something new, this conversation will help you see just how much you already bring to the table.
I'm Lisa Harding, ex-EdTech CEO turned certified teacher career coach. It wasn't all that long ago that I was recruiting, interviewing, and hiring teachers for roles in corporate America. Teachers that ended up being some of my all-time best employees. Fast forward through my own career transition, where I left my role as CEO to become a stay-at-home mom, I now work with and empower teachers to transform their lives by turning their once distant career dreams into realities. In this podcast, I give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're a burnt-out teacher or simply need a change and you're looking to create a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started.
All right, everyone, the moment that we have been waiting for, and with perfect timing, I would love to introduce Jamie. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
All right, so Jamie, I know in the conversation that we have, what I love about your job is that it's so similar to what you were doing as a teacher, but you get to harness what you love doing, but in a way that's less stressful. So before even diving in, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do now, and just overall, how has the transition really helped your life?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jamie Bulva, and I was in elementary education for 6 years before I decided to transition out. I am now a multi-site coordinator for the YMCA of Greater Kansas City. So, in this role, I oversee before and after school programs in a district. So, I oversee 5 elementary schools. Then I have staff within those programs that I do trainings with, and we do monthly meetings, all that kind of stuff. I'm also on the hiring team, so I do interviews and then do the process of hiring for new staff, not only in my district, but in the other districts that we serve. And in the KC metro area, we have over 92 locations that we provide programs for. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my role that I do. And the biggest thing was I needed a change, and kind of like she had said, where she thought education was where it was going to be and she was going to retire there. I thought the same thing. And unfortunately, education just wasn't going down the path that I wanted to go down. So I decided to jump headfirst, is what I had said earlier about leaving the profession. And I just searched and searched and searched on Indeed. That was my go-to, was searching education, coordinator, site supervisors, literally any of those keywords that I could still work with kids, but get out of the classroom. And that's the biggest thing that I can say about my job now, is that I still get to work with the kids, but I am no longer in the classroom and no longer having to deal with the stresses of being a teacher.
Man, and I'm very, very happy in the role that I have, but there is a piece of me that still misses having that connection with kids every day. So I think being able to find a job that still harnesses all of the same things that you loved about it's like taking all the things that you love about it and then
Yep.
stripping out all the things that you don't like about it,
Yes,
and then like having a
absolutely.
job, like literally a perfect combination. So I love this for you, and I love this for everyone else, so we all get to like dive in and learn about this together. There was something that you also said during that then like I had like a quick spark of a moment, and it will come back to me because it floated away. So I'm just naming this now, that we're eventually going to circle back to this
Sounds
grand
good.
thought that I had as you were giving that lovely introduction. So Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about, like, I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of like, at some point something hits you where you're like, I realize that now is the time that I think I need to find something else. And I want to name for everyone that it's never an easy decision to make. And I know a lot of us often struggle with it. So what happened for you? What made you know that, like, you know what, this is the right time for me to leave. And although I have no idea what is coming next, I know that this is a step that I need to take.
Yeah. So I will say that admin had a really big part in it. I know people that I worked with previously that have since moved to a new district and found their love for teaching again. They were kind of in the same position with me. They were like, I don't know, I think I want to leave, but I'm going to try a different district first. And I am still really close with all of them, and they love it. And sometimes I get a little jealous because I'm like, I
Sure.
wish I could have gotten that spark back. But honestly, I love the position I'm in. I just renewed my teaching license as a just in case, but
Yep.
I have no intentions of going back into the classroom, at least right now. And so I would say number one was admin, and having supportive admin will make or break your career. And
Totally.
unfortunately, I did not have supportive admin. I will say the other thing that really pushed me over the edge was behaviors. And I know that teachers
Yeah.
are all too familiar with that, but having a student that makes you have to clear your classroom because they are just so enraged, they're ripping everything off the walls. And all of us teachers and previous teachers know that you spend so much of your own money on that, and to just
Yeah.
watch it just be torn away and broken, and not having the support of admin, and admin pretty much telling you, well, we've dealt with it, so now you have to deal with it. And getting hit, bit, spit on, I don't get paid enough for that. And in the role I'm
No.
in currently, we still have behavior kids. I mean, we're still in a school setting. We still have behavior kids that we deal with. But the positive of this is I get to send them home. I get to tell their
So
parents that
true.
we do not stand for this, and your child's going to go home because you pay for your kid to be in this program, but I don't pay my staff to be bullied by your kid. And so that's been my number one thing, is supporting my staff, because I was not supported. And so being a supervisor
Totally.
now, that's like my number one goal, is to just make sure my staff are supported and that they don't have to go through the things that I went through.
And why we need more of us also out there in the field, right? Because I know the
Yep.
teachers are always out there looking out for each other. And you know what? You just bring that up, jogged that little thought that I had,
Oh,
which
good.
was, everyone, we have someone who does hiring also here on a webinar today. So if you have questions or you want advice when it comes to even like, I am applying and I'm trying to be recognized by a hiring manager, not only do you have someone who can talk to you about a new career, but they are also someone who is actively on the other side of the hiring process. So please also feel free to use tonight and ask questions about that, which I already see. We have had our first question come in. Margaret, kudos. I love when they start coming in quick. Margaret is curious if you had any leadership experience in whether in school or out of school before transitioning out of teaching and into your new role.
Yeah, so in school, we had something called the building leadership team, and it was a panel of teachers that pretty much were the like deciders of what went on within the school. So obviously the principal was the lead of that, and then we tried to have one teacher from each grade level, and then we try to
Mm,
have a specials teacher, and then we try to have a special education teacher on the board too. And so all the whole time I worked there, it was selected by the principal.
mm.
And it soon was called out that she was not being fair on who she was picking. She was going down her favorites list. So my final year of being at that school, it was then voted on, and my peers voted for me to be on that board. So that was my first like leadership in the school setting. But outside of school, as so many teachers know, I needed a second job to
Yeah.
not live paycheck to paycheck. So I was a retail manager for the entire time I was teaching. And I worked my way up from just being an associate up to being a manager. And I learned a lot from that role. That I learned how to be a trainer for incoming people. I learned scheduling, all those kinds of things I learned from that role as well. So I would say a lot of my leadership, that's a passion of mine. I was in 4-H as a kid, and leadership was a really big part of that. And so I was always wanting to be, have a job and do all these things with that. So it started really young. So leadership has always been a strong suit for me. And I think that my boss who hired me saw that and put me on the hiring team. But also having that experience as a manager helped as well.
Totally. So what I'm hearing is maybe like you had a little bit of leadership experience in school, like in that final year, but where a lot of your leadership experience came from, it's just like the outside of work opportunities that
Yep.
you were pursuing. And
Yeah.
I was like you, when I was teaching, I also had to have jobs outside of teaching because
Yep.
unfortunately having a master's degree did not pay the bills, which
No, not at
is
all. And you
a
would
crazy
think that you're
concept.
spending all this money that to move
Yeah.
up the ladder, and then you're like, nope, I still have to have another job.
Yeah, and I will say that was actually one of my sticking points where I'm not someone who needs to make $1 million in the world, like, I really don't. I'm pretty content on, like, a lower salary, but in Colorado where I live, I was about to need a 3rd job to just, like, make ends meet, and I was like, "Hold on, I have a
Yep.
master's. This
Right.
feels something about this is so viscerally wrong that I
Absolutely.
was already feeling like I had to be out the door, and that was just, like, one of those
Hmm.
I don't know which straw broke the camel's back
Yep.
for me, but it was one of the
That was
many
one of them.
straws that was weighing
Yep.
it down, let me tell you.
Yep.
Let's actually dive into the role that you have because again, this to me just sounds like the most dream jobs. Can you give us a sense of like, as someone, of course, you're running after school programs and you've given us like kind of a highlight of like, here's what my day to day looks like. But as a whole, like from a 9 to 5 perspective or whatever your hours are, what does a full day in the life of a program manager at the Y look like?
So, I start my day being on call. So I will even show you, we get work phones, and so I live my life with 2 phones. So that was a big transition, but it was also nice to know that they value you enough to give you a work phone and not make you do it from your
Hmm.
personal phone, which is really nice. So my day starts at about 5:30 in the morning because our programs start running at 6:30. So
Yep.
I am on call from the start in case someone is sick.
Okay.
So I may not necessarily be out at program, but I have my phone on loud, ready to put out any fires that need to be put out.
Yeah.
So our programs will start at 6:30 and they run until the bell rings, which is at 7:45. If I'm out at program, I our mornings are really lax. It's really just the kids being dropped off and we just play games with them, like board games or whatever. It's really, really chill till school starts. In my
And
district,
do you get to choose that or are you given like a set program? Like you must deliver this every day.
So it's pretty much up to the site supervisor. We are
Cool.
state licensed, so there are things that we do have to do according to the state of Kansas to be a licensed childcare facility. But the things that we do with our kids are pretty much up to our supervisors and up to
Okay.
the WISE standards. So all of our programs run pretty similar. The mornings are really just laid back, just everyone just is waking up, just getting to school. And then my particular district does something called PLCs, which teachers will know what that is. So on Wednesdays, the district does a late start. So we provide
Oh,
care
okay.
on those days. And you do have to pay to be in Y Club. So you pay a fee to be in the before and after school program. But on PLC days, we provide for anyone in the district. So all
Nice.
students at that elementary school are able to come. And so at the school that I've been helping out at, each MSC goes to a different school on PLC to help me out because we service a lot of kids. But my particular site that I'm at, we service 100 to 120 kids on PLC days, and we're
Okay.
only licensed for 45 kids in that program. So we are no longer a licensed facility. Once PLC starts, we're just helping the school out.
Yep.
So after morning program, I go to the office. So my site supervisors get to work from home during that time, lesson planning, snack shopping, supply shopping, budget tracking, just all those day-to-day things that they need to do. We have monthly meetings. So if it happens to be a meeting day, they clock in for that. Our site supervisors are full-time, so they get
Okay.
some time from home, but then they get their program hours. My position is salary. So I could work 48 hours in a week and it doesn't
Yep.
really matter. So it's a salaried position. So from there, I go to the office, and at the office, we all have a desk and we all get to just do whatever we need to do there. So typically, I'm checking emails to see if I have any parent emails, checking to make sure everyone has paid their weekly balance.
Mm.
Sending out reminder emails to my staff. A lot of times I just text my staff when I think of things. We're all in a group chat together. And then if I have a lot going on at the office, I'll stay at the office. And then our afternoon program starts at 3. So if anyone has called in, it's usually me having to sub. So remember, I have 5 schools. So having to
Yeah.
find out where I need to be gets a little hectic. But like today, it was 11 o'clock and I didn't have anything to do. So I went home. and I get to work from home.
Right.
So on those days, a lot of the girls on my team, we go home, we work from home on Fridays because Fridays are our more lax days. So we're just pretty much on call. We have our computers with us. If we need to do anything, our boss knows that we'll answer the phone immediately if he calls. But that there's a lot of flexibility in this job because my boss trusts that we know what we're doing, and my boss knows that if we have a lot to do, he knows that we'll be in the office, and we just communicate with him. Like tomorrow, my son has a doctor's appointment. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to be working from home tomorrow. And he said, all right, cool. Call me if you need me. So yeah, so that's, that is a huge perk from this job. So, and then after evening program ends at 6. Yes, absolutely. Evening program ends at 6. I'm usually on call until my phone goes on Do Not Disturb at 7. My staff know that if I am really bad, I still check my phone even on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
All my coworkers are like, stop doing that, because I check it on the weekends too, and they're like, no, you're not working. But that's just how I am. But I usually am available till 7. Like I had a call tonight from a supervisor that had an incident at their program and need to know how to handle it. So I'm usually on call till 7, and then my phone goes on Do Not Disturb, and then it all starts over the next day.
So do you ever feel like you are, like in teaching, I worked so many extra hours, or I had to bring work home with me. Do you feel like you have to do that a lot in this role?
No, not at all. I do.
Amazing.
A lot of times I leave my computer at my desk, and when I did that as a teacher, I felt like I was being judged. I felt like if I didn't take home a bag full of stuff, I was being judged. And so a lot of times I leave my computer on my desk, and then just the other day I decided to work from home, and I was like, oh, now I gotta go to the office to get my computer. So then I ended up just staying at the office for a little bit. But no, I really feel like there are times I will say as a hiring manager, I have to be a little more flexible with what I do, because the people that I'm hiring it's usually part-time positions, so they have a full-time job, and I usually have to work around their schedule. So there are times that I've had to do an interview at 7:00, or I've had to do an interview on the weekends, but that's very minimal. I would say 9 times out of 10, the only work that I bring home with me is this until it goes on Do Not Disturb, and that's it.
So now that you bring that up, that actually leads really well into Margaret's other question for someone who doesn't, let's say, have some leadership experience. So you've obviously been put into the position you are in now, with a combination of everything that you've had. Do you still feel like that a teacher without some of that extra leadership experience is qualified to do the role that you are doing now? Do you think that that's a barrier for them? Would they have to work themselves up? That's kind of the question that Margaret's asking.
Yeah, so I would say in my position, having any kind of education background is gonna make you what's the word I'm looking for? Like make you eligible for this position. I will say, I'm trying not to toot my own horn when I say this, but I am the first person in this position to ever be hired outside and not promoted within.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
That's huge. Yeah. So I will attest that my resume did the speaking for me. So he saw that I had education experience, and he saw I had a master's in education, and that I knew a lot about kids and working in school districts. And when he interviewed me, he even told me, you will be the first person to not be promoted within. So that's going to give some barriers for you. So when I did start, I mean, it was a little hard because there were people that I was up against that didn't get the job, and I did, and they work for us. And so I did have to deal with those kind of things. But I was able to bring in an outsider's perspective. So these people are all used to working with the Y. They worked up the ladder, and then someone came from the outside on the school side. So when they're frustrated about things, or they're like, oh, this teacher is doing this, like I can give an outsider's perspective as someone who used to be a teacher. And that's been really good. And working, I will say this role works very closely with all admin. And a lot of times the superintendent is our go-to person with the district. And I think it made the transition easier for me because they knew I understood education. They knew I understood ELC days. They knew I understood professional development. They knew I understood all of that. that some Y employees may not know a lot about. So I would say definitely having that leadership background, I think it made me more a key candidate for the hiring aspect, but that was
Yeah,
just an added bonus. Like you didn't have to be on the hiring team to be in this position. So I would say you would still could be in a position like this even without the leadership side.
totally. And then just clarifying for people, yes, Y is a YMCA.
Oh,
And I'm
sorry.
sorry, I realize that both of us probably didn't mention that this entire time. So yes, Y equals YMCA. And then can you remind both me and everyone else here as well, what is the name of your title again for the YMCA?
Yeah. So with the YMCA, I'm a multi-site coordinator. So that
Beautiful.
just means that we are overseeing multiple schools. So like I said at the beginning, we each have a district that we oversee. I recently took on another site that
Mm,
isn't within the school district. So I do have a school district here and then one all the way over here. So
of
that's made things
course.
a little more difficult, but we are constantly expanding. We're constantly trying to find districts that need our help to run a before and after school program. The one that I just added is a Catholic school, and they were running their own program, and it was just started to be too much for them.
Yeah.
So we came in and we took over, and so then I had to start from scratch with them. I had to buy supplies, buy the snack, hire the
Yeah.
staff, do all that kind of stuff. And then I run a summer camp, which I don't know if I mentioned. I
Mm,
do summer camp too. That would probably be the busiest part of my job is summer.
yeah. Makes sense. I'm sure that's like much more of like the long-term care than compared to
Yes.
like the before or the after
Yep.
school.
I will
Uh,
also say that we in this position, you don't get holidays off like teachers do.
right.
So we get the typical like Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. But our bread and butter is actually those days that school is out because
Totally.
we provide no school day care. And so I'm
Yeah.
out in those schools providing care those days. And I really thought it was going to be hard when I left teaching to not have that flexibility in my schedule anymore on having all those days off. But it's actually been better for me. It's very consistent and I know what to expect. I know summers are going to be busy for me. But I still get to enjoy my family too. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
gone nonstop.
Well, I feel like that's what it was for me of like, I may not have as many of those like regimented scheduled days off, but I don't feel like I need them as much
Mhm.
anymore. Like before it was
Oh,
like I was
absolutely.
literally hanging on for dear life by the time that
Yes.
one of those days rolled around. Where now I'm like, I'm going on a vacation tomorrow because I want to. There's also no stress of needing to take that vacation. I could just
Yes.
go take it.
Yes, I
Uh
love that.
and
And you're not
s-
counting down. Like I felt like I was
yes.
constantly counting down to
Yes.
the next break and now I'm just like,
Totally.
"Oh, we're already to Christmas break. All right, cool." Like
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree with that. I'm wondering if people are interested in doing some type of after school program and they're not looking at the YMCA and they're keeping their search wide. Are there other job titles that they should be considering or looking for that still do what you do?
Yes. So I would say, because every now and then, being someone that is on the hiring side, I look on Indeed and kind of see who my competitors are.
Mm,
The biggest one
yeah.
in my area is the Rec Center is
Mm,
our number one competitor. So the things you're wanting to look for is like after school lead, site supervisor. When you're looking on Indeed, you have to be careful because sometimes when you put in site supervisor, which is what our people are called, it's also going to pull up like a supervisor for a business team or something like
right.
that. So just really working on narrowing down like the education key terms, those kind of things. But yeah, you're looking for things like after school lead, site supervisor. Ours is called if you're a high school student, you're a youth development assistant. If
Hmm.
you're over the age of 18, you're a youth development leader. Anything
Mm,
with youth, a lot of even the rec, it's a lot of them have youth as the beginning one. I would also encourage people to get involved with their after school program at their schools.
totally.
That's where I did a lot of my work at when I was a teacher. I would help out in the after school program. So I had a lot of knowledge of like grants and stuff like that, that in this position you do need to know a little bit about. And it's not going to make or break you being able to get a job like this, but having some knowledge of, especially for a nonprofit grants is
Yeah.
how we are able to run a lot of our programs.
Yeah, totally. And Margaret was asking here, did you find this job from, I think you said Indeed. Is that where you
Yep.
found this position?
Mhm. Yep.
As a hiring manager, where are you going out and looking for candidates normally? Or where do you guys
So
post your
I would say
applications?
I would say, for me being I like to think that I'm young, just turned 30, but I like to still think I'm young. I use Facebook. So
Nice.
as a hiring manager, anytime I'm in need of something, I post in my mom groups.
Mm,
So using those things to your advantage. So I'm a new mom, so I post in my mom groups, and then the little towns around me, and specifically the town that I have my after school program in, has a Facebook page for that town. So I post
mm,
in there. So and then I post to the closest towns around them. So I actually was able to get a lot of the after school people from where I used to teach because their after school program closed down because they ran
ah,
out of funding. And so I was able to get a lot of them to come work for me in the summer, and then just word of mouth. So once you
mhm,
get one person in, we offer a hiring bonus if you refer someone. So we just push that a lot. I go to hiring events at the local communities, community colleges around us. I also go to some of the churches do hiring events.
mhm,
I would say my most success has been Facebook, though. Those hiring events, the rec center also goes to. So we're really
mhm.
competing for the same people, but and it's hard because the rec center can pay more than we can pay.
Got it.
But we have long term more perks for working for our company. So it's just people see the dollar amount and they're like, yes, I want that. But then long term, I have a lot of people coming from them because
Yep,
the dollar amount is better over there, but the perks and the way they're treated and stuff like that, it's
totally.
better on our side. So
And that was actually Selma was wondering about that. Can you actually talk about the benefits and whether it be with you at the Y, and especially if people are looking at Y positions to kind of know like what that looks like, or even outside of that? So, what are some of the pros and cons also of like the rec center
yeah.
compared to what you guys have too?
So I will say that I actually worked for that rec center, the our biggest competitor. So that's I kind of have seen both sides. I would say the biggest the pros for both sides is working with kids. The number one way you're working with kids without the added stress.
Yep.
You get to be the fun person. So I would say that's a huge thing. I would say the con is you have to think about pay, which we all know when we're working with kids, you're not in it for the money, no matter what
Yeah.
position you're in,
Yep.
daycare, school, any of it. But I will say, personally, working for a nonprofit, that's something that is on the con list. But I would say for benefits wise, like the rec and the YMCA offer discounts for your if you have kids or grandkids to
Mm,
participate in the programs. So the YMCA and the rec do like t-ball and youth volleyball, all those kind of things. So you get a discount when you enroll in those. For us, for our before and after school program, you get a discount, employee discount, if you bring your kids to our program. Um, we actually have really good healthcare for
mm,
our position. So we have a really good retirement plan. It doesn't kick in until you've been with the company for 2 years, but after that they put in a decent amount and then you can choose to even increase it yourself.
awesome.
I will say as a teacher, I felt like the benefits weren't that great. I felt like healthcare was really expensive for a teacher.
Mine was
um,
too in
yeah.
Colorado. So maybe it's just I
Yes.
know it's different by state. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
us middle states. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I felt like it was pretty rough. And luckily
Yeah.
I'm married to someone who works for the union, so we get free healthcare, which is really nice. But I will say that is a bonus. And even with the rec, I feel like the rec has decent healthcare options and stuff like that. If a lot of times though in these positions you have to really search hard for the full-time positions. If you're
Got
wanting
it.
something full-time, you're wanting to look for more like what I do, the multi-site coordinator or the site supervisors. But a lot of the positions they do are if you're like being a referee for the rec or if you're going to be
Mm,
an after school leader, all of those are part-time positions. And so sometimes you just have to work your way up. I worked
yeah.
for the Y when I was in college.
Okay.
But that didn't necessarily lead to me getting this position. I still knew
Got
some
it.
of the people that I worked with, but it I didn't necessarily work my way up. I would just
Yeah.
search like crazy to find something that still had kids related to it, but not in the classroom.
And that was actually one of the things I was going to ask is like, does this feel like something that if you could start smaller to then work your way up? But I feel like in general, it seems like because teachers are really coming in with all of the skills that they want, like maybe they need a little bit more help in developing on the things like the managing side or the leadership side or the hiring side, those types of things. But the job of what you're being asked to do, like we are coming in with all of that
Oh,
experience. So it seems
absolutely.
like they should be a very good and easy fit for a lot of those positions.
So I will say on that, to just emphasize on your resume, I feel like on my resume, because I only ever knew to be a teacher, I feel like on the resume I was just putting like, here are, because when you're a teacher and you're trying to go from one district to another, they want to know what are the curriculums you taught, like what
Sure.
committees were you a part of. And then when
Yep.
I transitioned out of teaching, I felt like I had to really pay attention to my resume and change up the wording and really emphasize on the things that I did. So like the building leadership team, I emphasized on that.
Yeah.
Or coaching, I did coaching when I was a teacher, emphasizing
Mhm.
on that. Emphasizing on the things that you're not used to emphasizing on, because you're always like, oh, look at this curriculum I taught and I know how to do this and I can differentiate and all these kind of things. And these outside people are like, okay. But when I tell them that I was on this leadership team, or I've coached, or I've worked in the after school program, like that's what they want to see. And so just being mindful of that on your resume, like really emphasizing the things, because when I first did this, I was like, I'm just a teacher. What else do I have to
Right.
offer? I'm just a teacher. But if you really get down and think about it, we have so many skills, but on a
Yes,
resume,
we do.
you just look like you're a teacher. And I had to fight my way. Let me tell you, before I got this position, I did probably sent out applications for probably 25, 30 places, and
Yeah.
had probably about half of those call me for interviews. And they literally were like, oh, well, we were really intrigued because we've never had a teacher apply before. Like, what makes you good for this position? And I had to fight for myself and be like,
Yeah.
I'm not just a teacher. I'm good at all of these things because I'm a teacher.
I love that you said that, and I would like to lift this up even more. I don't care what jobs, everyone on this call, no matter what job you end up in, teachers literally can do anything. And I would challenge anyone, you can take any job on the face of the planet. Like I challenge you to find one job that does not have some type of direct overlap with those skills. So like Jamie said, boil down what you do and just like generally think about as a teacher, what are you doing every day? You are managing. Like you are managing, I mean, think how many kids do you have in your classroom? I know I had upwards of like 35 sometimes. I was managing 35 people every single day with competing deadlines and priorities, managing all these different other stakeholders at large using
Mhm.
all of this corporate speak, and then ensuring that I hit everything with the right deadline, communication style, doing with empathy. Like think of all of those things that you do. And as you said, at first it can feel like I'm just a teacher. We literally can do anything. I think this is also why you'll find, of course, teachers make sense for a role like this. Even me, I do marketing. I was hired because I was a teacher, and they're like, we teachers just come in with skills that we can't replicate in other people. Like the corporate world is just full of people that truthfully like are not always the best workers, and teachers are the greatest workers of all time because we care.
Absolutely.
Like
Yes, and
we
we work
genuinely
well
care.
under
We work
pressure.
hard.
We
Yes.
we know literally the ins and outs of data, and that
Yes.
was the thing with my position now, is like we have so many spreadsheets. We have budget trackers, we have
Mm,
enrollment tracking, and we have all those things. And I'm like, at first I was like, well, I know nothing about this. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I
of
tracked
course you do.
state testing. I tracked all
Yep.
these things. And when we were trying to out a new curriculum, I was tracking, was it working, was it not working? I'm like, no, I do
Totally.
know how to do this. But you have to really think, you're not just a teacher. You have to, like you said, boil down and really look at the individual things that you can do.
Yes. Big tip for everyone here. It does not matter what job you're applying to. You should be customizing that resume for every single job, just taking the language right from their job description, having it in your resume. But another thing I want to point out is that you do not have to be a 100% match to everything that they put on that job description. A job description is a wish list. And is there someone maybe out there that checks every single one of those boxes? Sure, but are they also bringing a charismatic attitude and a personality that, especially in this type of role, that people want to interact with and that they can get along with? So please no, do not apply to something because you're like, I don't have every single one of those. There is always something that someone will have to learn at every job. Like you said, maybe it's even learning a little bit more about grants. Like you are not going to know 100% of the things that you need to know to enter any job. But this is also why people love teachers. We're fast learners. And if you can
Absolutely.
communicate that too in that interview process, or even in think about sneaky ways of your resume, my curriculum will change every year. You got to think on your feet. You got to be flexible, adaptable. Those are the types of things that people are really looking for in employees. And like I said, it's just not found as often in others. So
Absolutely.
definitely, if I can recommend that to anyone, one, customize every single resume that you make. And I love that. Like, harp on those skills that are really those really transferable skills. Like, from teaching to program management, think about communication. I think even thinking about communicating with other stakeholders in the school and outside the school. Like, I can communicate with the district superintendent as well as I can communicate with the parents of the students that we are taking care of. So lifting up some of those other pieces, I think, is really great advice. Anything else from just being on the hiring team? Like, when you are looking at resumes for some of these after school programmers, what are you looking for in their resumes, or what are things that have like kind of struck you that you could point out to people on the call?
Yeah, so I would say literally anyone on this call, literally anyone with any childcare experience, like I would automatically interview you because in this position,
Love to hear.
yes, right. So in this position, working with kids, we hire people that don't have any childcare experience. I have a youth development leader at one of my sites who had never worked with kids before, and she does phenomenal. And
I
it's
mean,
just one of those things that, like you said, I may not have checked off every box, but they took a chance on me, and
yep.
I feel like I'm doing a really good job. And so you just have to put yourself out there. And I look for, um, I feel like a lot of the people I hire are younger people. I have like a lot of high
Hmm.
schoolers and college kids that work for me, and they don't do resumes. And I feel like that's the
Interesting.
first thing that I'm looking at because um, if I have 10 applicants and I only have one app opening, I'm first looking for those resumes. I'm first looking to
Yep.
see, do you have childcare experience? What other kind of experience do you have? And sometimes I feel like the people that don't provide a lot of information, I don't even give them a chance. And I've had to tell people that before, that I'm like, you need to put everything on there. So you think I've only ever been a waitress, okay, but you still have customer service skills. Like, you still have something to provide for me, but when you don't put anything, it's not a
Yep.
very good look. So I definitely look for like a lot of information. Putting all of their information up front helps me out. I also am looking for people that are responsive. I
Mm.
do a lot of my reaching out through my phone, through text message, again, because I do have a lot of younger people that work for me. And now, I obviously don't need you to text me back right away, but I usually give 1 to 2 days. I've had people in the past that it's been 2 weeks, and then they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, do you still have that job?" And I'm like, "No,
No,
like you
not for
did
you at
not,
least.
you did not get back to me in a timely manner." I will also say I really like people that even though it's a childcare job, we are very lax with like we don't really have a dress code. We just ask that you wear your name tag. Like, I'm literally,
Yeah.
this is what I wore to work today. I'm in a hoodie and leggings, and that's pretty
Dream.
typical. Yes, that's pretty typical for my department. But also remember that you are coming to an interview. And so, like, if I reach out to someone, I've had people show up in pajamas before. I've had people
Crazy.
yeah, I do a lot of virtual interviews. I had someone vaping while I was interviewing them, and I was like,
Oh my
not the
gosh.
best look. So just
Oh no.
my biggest thing that I look for is just people being responsive, people putting out their resume, and then people just still being professional. By no means do I feel like you need to be like in your best dress for a business interview,
Yes.
because it's not that serious, but just like the energy. I'm very big on the energy, because I have hired people, and we like to say on the hiring team we were catfished, because they interview really well, and then they get into the position and you were like, what did I do?
What
And
happened?
yes, and I've had that happen. And so just being real when you're interviewing, especially with childcare positions, don't tell the person what you think they want to hear.
Yeah.
Some jobs it's really easy to do that, and you can just fluff your way into that job. But with childcare, we have to be real
Mm-hmm.
because not everyone is cut out to work with kids. And as teachers,
Totally.
we all know not everyone is a good teacher. Not everyone is good with kids. Not everyone is meant for
It's
childcare.
true.
So I also really like, because I know we talked about earlier that I negotiated for my pay. I like people
Yes.
that come to me that know what they want. I can't
Let's
always
dive
I
into
can't
that
always give
actually.
into that, but I like the people that come in knowing what they want.
I'm going to have us dive into the negotiation piece. So especially Lisa, who is the CEO of the Teacher Career Transition Academy. She will actually be on a little bit later. And I know she's sitting listening somewhere right now, probably just Oscar being like, yes, they're going to talk about negotiation, because it is something that I know, even sitting here myself, I was like, I'm not negotiating. It's weird. It's awkward. And it is not in this world. Before we dive into this, though, I just want to just pause, and I want you to all think about the things that Jamie just talked about, from like what can go on your resume, how to present yourself in an interview. And this is what I mean when I say, like, this is why teachers are so well loved. Simple things like not vaping on an interview that you may be like, that's insane. Who would do that? That's what's out there, people. Like, this is why people love teachers as employees. Like, you just get it. You're professional. You can communicate in a timely manner. It's like all of these things that to us come second nature. It does not come second nature to everyone. So I know it may feel silly sometimes to be like, that's some of the advice that people need to hear. Yes, it is. And that is also why you already coming in, especially in this role, come in with like 100 legs up over other people. And that is not the same case on every single job. Like, I definitely had to prove a little bit more because I was doing marketing. I wasn't working with kids anymore. And
Yeah.
I had a tiny bit of marketing experience. Same thing. They're willing to take a chance. I'm a quick learner. I can adapt. I'm flexible. And I definitely beat out other people just because of what I brought of like those soft skills to the table and not just like the hard skills.
Mhm.
So if you're sitting here being like, wow, I can't believe that's what people need to hear, I hope that makes you feel better going out into the world, being like, I know that I can get a job doing anything. And also hearing too, like you said, you're hiring people that don't have childcare experience. So even if you recognize tonight, maybe this is not the career path for you, you also can go do a job that you do not have any experience into. And it's the same thing. You may start low down, get your foot in the door somewhere, but everyone has that opportunity somewhere. And you just got to find the right one. So there's always a glimmer of hope wherever it may be. But I'm not going to, like, we all know your career transition can feel really tough at times, and it feels demoralizing sometimes too. But everything will work out as it should. So just, if you can keep that positive attitude, and I know it's always harder said than done, things will work out as they should, and they will work out with whatever purpose there is for your like next step in life. So, little soapbox rant for the day. And now let's talk about this. And Sonia, you're probably here being like, you're answering everyone's questions but mine. I promise I've had this one locked up for this point. So Sonia was also talking about how she thinks that interviewing is where she feels like she's getting stuck. So do you have advice either from your own interview process for this role, or being on the other side when you are presenting interviews, other than don't vape on an interview, which I can't imagine anyone that's on this call would do?
I know, but it's like you said, it's something I have to put out there because it's
Because someone did it.
Happened. Yeah.
Like they say, there's always a rule because someone broke it first, right? Like you had to say don't vape on an interview because someone has vaped on an interview with you before.
That is so like, I tell my staff that when I do staff training, I'm like, it seems silly that I'm having to put this in the staff handbook, but it's because it happened. So
it's because it happened. Yes.
So what was the question? Sorry.
Interviewing. Sorry. Tips from either your own interview process or being someone on the other side now.
So I would say the biggest thing on my side was just being upfront and being honest. So I didn't tell you guys, but I got this job while in the hospital a day after having a C-section, and I almost canceled. I almost canceled the interview, but my son was born in August, and as all of us teachers know, you're only paid until September, and then it's done. And so I was in crunch mode, and every interview I had leading up to when I had my son, I had to be honest. It wasn't always obvious that I was pregnant, but I had to be honest from the start. And every interview I went into, I answered their questions and just really pushed on the skills that I had, because like I said, some interviews were like, oh, you're a teacher. We never would have expected a teacher to apply. And that's when you really just have to just really, really talk up all the things that we do as teachers. But just make sure that you're being honest too. If you know that you, for me, I knew that I was going to be out for a little bit. I had to be honest from that, even though most of my interviews, that took me out of the running, even though they told me to my face, oh yeah, that's no problem, because legally they have to. I knew I was going to be taken out of the running. But had I not been honest, then you're starting off on the wrong foot with your job. And I've had people that have interviewed with me where they're not honest. They get the job and then all of a sudden they dump this on me. And I'm like, well, now what do? I already hired you, but like you should have told me ahead of time, kind of thing. So I would say my number one piece of advice is to just be honest. If there's something in particular you're looking for, this kind of goes in with the negotiation. If there's something specific you're looking for, don't back down from that. Now, I will say, like, if you know the starting pay is, let's say, $45,000 and you go in and you're saying I have to have 70,000, most likely they're not going to give into that. But if you know that 45,000 isn't going to work for you, go in being like, I'm very interested in this job, but we need to come to a common ground there. And like you said, so many people are like, I'm not going to do that. I was the same way. I was like, well, I was kind of beating around the bush. But then I was like, no, for my family to be okay and for me to be okay leaving teaching, this is the amount I need to make. And again, honesty is really, really important in the interviews. And so, as a person that's interviewing, but also the person that was on the other side having to look for a job, just being really upfront and honest about things. And also, it's okay if you don't know things.
Totally.
I've had to tell people when they ask me things, I'm like, you know what, I'm not really sure. But if I was in, a lot of times with in childcare, really, you get a lot of scenario questions. Like,
Yes.
if you had a raging mom, what would you do? Or stuff like that. So if I didn't know the answer, I just had to be honest. I was like, I haven't had to deal with that, or I'm not really sure. But if I were to be put in the position, I think this is how I would handle it. And I actually had a lot of people that were like, wow, like that was a really good answer. And I was like, huh, okay. Because I just kind of that
mental
out.
check.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I would say honesty and just really being true to the skills that you have and being true to what you know and what you don't know. Because as we've said so much on this call, like we have so many skills as a teacher, like we need to just be upfront about those skills. And so, no, I may not know very much about business, but I am very good with customer service and I'm very good at communicating. And these are a list of people that I communicate with on a daily basis. And these are all the different forms I use to communicate, and just really emphasizing on those things.
Totally. And thinking too, and it was one of those thoughts that it came in. I was like, make sure you bring that up. And then as quickly as I said that, I think it fell out my other ear because then I was listening to all the other lovely things that you said. So just give me a second. And this one too, instead of this too shall pass, this too shall come back.
Yes. I love it.
And it was about scenario-based things. In this type of role, you are absolutely right that you're going to be getting asked, just like teaching interviews, like a lot of those scenario-based things. So any advice that I could give was try, and before an interview, rack up as many of those different experiences that you think you can relate to. Think about a tough kid, a tough parent. Also think about a time that you're given feedback, like how did you handle that? And I totally agree with you, Jamie, and I love what you said. If you don't know something, it's okay to be like, you know what? That hasn't happened before, but here's how I would handle it. Or, you know what? I'm not sure, but here's how I would go about problem solving that. It is absolutely okay to say if you're not sure, if you haven't had something, but don't just stop there. Tell them then, like, how am I going to be a problem solver then? Because that's another thing. People are lazy and they're not problem solvers. So if you're willing to show like, wow, just in this moment, that's a good one. I'm not sure, but let me walk you through my thought process. If you plop that on my desk right now, what would I go do? Here's my answer for you. So racking as many of those up as you can. I'm also going to drop in the chat a link. This is just a free tool that people can use. It's a Google like interview practice tool. So I know, Sonia, interviewing to me is one of the skills that's like riding a bike. Like we all have had to do it at some point and we've all had it down at some point. But when you don't do it a lot, you get a little rusty and it feels a little weird when you start doing it again. It is the same thing with interviewing. So the more that you can just like think about those experiences, practice saying them out loud, the more comfortable it feels actually on the interview. And I can tell you from mine, the first few that I did, I remember being like, oh, woof, like that was weird. But then each one felt a little bit better with a little bit more practice. So the link I dropped in the chat for everyone, it is a great free practice tool that you can use. And it just gets you feeling more comfortable for when it is like game time and you're actually face-to-face, whether it's through a remote call, video, or actually in person. But if I could give any advice, practicing is definitely helpful. Now let's talk about negotiating, our favorite thing. So, as you said, Jamie, you did negotiate. So, can you walk us through like what was that? How did it go? And then also on the other side, like now being someone who hires, what is your perspective about negotiation now, not being a teacher anymore?
So I didn't tell them. I knew that it was going to be a 2 interview position. So at the Y, now being on the hiring side, I see that a lot of times they want you to do a phone screen and then do a virtual or in-person interview. But those are more for our higher up positions. So like my position and higher. And then our other positions, we call a phone screen just you responding to us through a text.
Okay.
So I knew that I was going to have 2 interviews. So in my first interview, I did not mention anything about pay. And I did mention that I was going to need to be close to what I was making as a teacher. I just put that out there, but I didn't talk numbers with them because the phone screen was just to see if they wanted to meet with me again.
Yeah.
So then when I got the second interview, and it was a virtual interview with my now boss and one of his coworkers. After he had asked me all the questions and we talked about it, he asked if I had any questions. And so I was like, well, now's my chance. And I've always been the person that when you fill out the application, it says, what's your desired pay? And the YMCA does have that on their application. I always hate that
It's the worst
question.
question. It's the
Yes,
worst.
because you're like, if I put too much,
You
they're
feel
going to just
trapped.
automatically throw me out. Like,
Yep.
yeah. So I was always like, would either leave it blank or I'd put minimum wage. And I'm like, okay, in a position like this, I can't be doing that. So
That's right.
knowing it's a salaried position. So I, going into my second interview, knew I needed to bring this up. And I actually have a sister who works for a recruiting company, and negotiating is like her favorite thing because she's
Same.
like, no,
Oh, Lisa would
go
love her.
to, you go to them and you tell them like, if you want me, like these are the things we need to do. And I'm like, no, I just want the job.
Yeah, I'll
But
do
I
anything.
knew, right. But I knew leaving teaching, and as you all know, like teaching's on a scale. So you have an idea of what you're going to be making. For a nonprofit, not necessarily. So I knew I needed to go in making what I was making as a teacher. So I said that at the end. I said, I'd like to talk about pay. And I said, I need to be making a certain amount to make it worth leaving the classroom. And I didn't say the number at first. And then they said, okay, what is it that you're looking for? And I knew what they put as the starting pay in their ad, but it said and up. So I knew that there was going to be some room for hopefully some wiggle room. So I told them, I said, well, this is what I was making when I stopped being a teacher, and I cannot make anything less than that. I need to start out this pay. And they were like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, wait, what?
What?
So had I not spoken up, I honestly don't know that I would be making what I'm making now, because being on the other side now, on the hiring side, we have a document that tells me what I can offer people when I'm hiring. And it goes based off of experience. It goes based off of schooling. So like I have a master's degree, and I made sure to emphasize on that when I was in my interview, because I know I'm no longer in a teaching role, but my master's degree still makes me even more advanced in the education world.
Totally.
And so I really emphasized on that. And so now, as someone who hires, I keep that in mind. And honestly, I pay more than a lot of the other people on the hiring team, because I
Love that.
think because I've been on that other side. I've been that person that's worked in education, and I have a lot of paras that come and work for me.
Yeah.
I have those high school students. I have some stay-at-home moms that come work for me, and any kind of childcare experience, I bump up their pay. And so, like, if my base pay is $14 an hour, the only time you're going to be making that base pay is if my girl that came in with zero experience. That's where
Right.
she's starting at. But I'm also very understanding of, you have something worth that's going to make you better in my program. And so
Totally.
I want to acknowledge that. We can't pay a ton, because really my starting pay is $14 an hour. And so I know that when I'm competing with the rec whose starting pay is $18 an hour, like I only can do so much. But I do like to tell people that like experience gets you more money, and
Totally.
and to communicate those things with me. I've had moms that come in and they're like, I really need to be making this amount. And I'm like, I can't do that, but can I meet you in the middle? And so that's the nice thing about being on the hiring side. And that's honestly when I was like, man, I probably could have negotiated for more because they said yes
Now
really
you've
quick.
learned.
Yeah. So but it's actually made me more confident in that because I've never been one as a teacher. We
Totally.
all know you don't really negotiate that because they
Nope.
have their scale, they're all union, they already have everything decided. But I did sit on the negotiation board for the union when I was a teacher. And so I feel like that gave me a little bit more of a boost because I'm like, okay, we can stand for what we deserve. And so when I went into this position, I just said, well, if I'm going to make this leap, this is what I have to have. And so luckily it worked in my favor.
And let me tell everyone, they are genuinely expecting you to negotiate. And as you said, Jamie, you're like, wow. And then I realized, like, looking back, like, if it was like that easy, that's probably good. And they offer you things expecting that if they give you here, you're going to come here, which means you're probably going to go in the middle.
Right.
I would also love to point out too, there's so many things you can negotiate on too. So don't feel just trapped by things like salary, whether it's like the amount of PTO that you get. Even if maybe there was something that you were going to need some type of like equipment, if there was like, you could get some type of bonus to start. So you can get a new laptop because maybe you were given a school one and now you need one to be able to conduct this, whatever it may be. So think about what is going to make the most difference in your life as well. So even if you feel uncomfortable with asking for the money part, think about all those other little pieces that you can add in. And I know Lisa, she is listening here. I know she's going to be like, I would be asking for both, and she would be. But if you need to start somewhere, start with what makes you feel the most comfortable. And I will tell you too, my negotiation story, I also was like, I do not want to negotiate. It's weird. It's awkward. Like I was in the position too where I was like, please, like I'll pay you to work. Like just let me find a different job. Right.
Yeah.
I am someone who Lisa did help me negotiate. So members too, that's like a benefit that you get. She helped me negotiate where I was able to get, I think it was like $10,000 more added on to my salary. And it made it so I was making so much more than I was making in the job that I had even before that. So even though the salary for me was already like way better, she was like, nope, we're going to come back and we're going to ask for this. And even it was like a no brainer. They're like, sure, based on your experience, here's more money. Like it was just, it's that simple, people. So if we can make you feel good about anything, hopefully we've made you feel good about a lot of things tonight, but if we can make you feel good about anything, it's negotiate because you are worth it. And especially in this field too, you are coming in with all of the experience in the world. You are going to be one of their best people. So I hope you can go into this type of role, like really feeling that confidence. But also if you're like, I still find it weird, it's also okay. We're teachers. It's not normal for us, but I promise the more that you are out of teaching, the more normal that it feels. And as Jamie can also attest to.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Jamie, I'll tell you, we're getting lots of love in the chat. So I would also like to be the first, out loud. Thank you. And I know I'm like the only one. You and I are the only two who can actually speak on this. But Jamie, thank you seriously so much for joining us tonight. I feel like this is such a hidden gem of like, you want to be a teacher, you want to do all the things, you have all the experience, you just want to do it in a way that allows you to just like bring the joy and take all of like the red tape out of teaching. Like this is the role. So
just the fun.
I am so glad that you have found this. I am so glad that everyone else found this webinar tonight of hopefully if this is the right path for them. So extending on my thanks, both from everyone on this call, but also myself, and just so happy that you've also found like the best next step for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Can I also say that if anyone is looking for a job and they're in the KC metro area, I would love to, I don't know, am I able to chat as well?
Yes,
I'm going to put my work email out there. And if you live, we have anywhere from North Missouri all the way into Spring Hill, Kansas, which is where I run the before and after school program. We're hiring constantly. Our corporate office is hiring constantly. So I'm going to put my email down there. If you guys are looking for a job, I'm more than happy to help you out.
And I'm not going to lie, Margaret, I do not know where Ottawa is in comparison to the KC area, but I saw Kansas. So I'm flagging that for you. I love that. Absolutely. Please absolutely drop that in there. You are more than welcome to do that. And then also just lifting kind of that up again. If you are not in the KC area, remember all the ways that Jamie talked about how she was able to go into the different Facebook groups using Indeed. I know I use LinkedIn. So think about some of those other ways that you can find that. But Jamie did just drop her email in the chat. So make sure if it's helpful for you, grab it, connect with her. Absolutely. Jamie, please. This is what this is for too, networking. It's one of the most powerful things that you can be doing out there. So I'm glad that you could use this to your benefit today too.
I will also say that Kim Hodge is my mom, so shout out to my mom for supporting
Shout
me
out,
and
Kim.
coming and watching.
Does it? Oh my, Kim, good. Thank you, Kim. Thanks for coming. I love that.
Great mom.
That is amazing. I am currently doing this from my parents' house, and I've seen a few eager faces walking by too. So shout out to
Yeah.
also just all moms out there, dads as well,
Yes.
sending all the
Yes.
vibes to you.
So
Hope you're all
true.
doing well. It's a cold time of year. I don't know what it's like to be a parent this time of year, but I know this is when I go stir crazy. So if you have
Oh,
kids, I don't know
yes.
if they're going stir crazy too. But
Yes.
oh man, I get it. I get it, guys. All right. Well, Jamie, again, let me just give you a huge thanks. And for everyone else here, if you're also sitting here being like, were you going to talk to us about Teacher Career Transition Academy? Yes, I am. I'm about to bring Lisa on in just a second so she can chat with you about it. But let me just give one final, just like, thank you, Jamie, for everything that you brought tonight and just sending you as much well wishes and joy and all of the things that you've been looking for that you have seemed to found this job. I just hope that all of that continues for you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone that came on to listen to my spiel. Anything I can do to help, I'm here for it.
A special thank you to Jamie for sharing her story so openly and giving us a behind-the-scenes look at both her career transition and the hiring process. And thank you to Megan Johnson for leading today's conversation and asking the questions so many teachers navigating a transition are wondering about. Jamie's story is a powerful reminder that your next career does not have to take you completely away from the work you care about. There are opportunities that allow you to use your experience, continue making an impact, and build a professional life that feels more sustainable. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Beyond the Classroom. Remember, friends, the journey is just the beginning. Embrace the adventure.